Welcome to the Hedera HashCast, episode 16. I'm your host, Warlock and Key, and we're back again with the folks from Stader Labs. How are you guys doing today?
All good. Thanks for having us again. Excited to chat more.
Of course. So now that Stator V2 has launched, how are things going?
Yeah, so I think last time we were here, we were talking about what we expect from V2, and we talked about the J curve, sort of people, just testing out the functionality for unstaking, and then hopefully things moving back up. Yeah, so that's kind of played out. The dip wasn't as great as probably we would expect it, about 2-3%. And then, this week we've seen a strong uptake in our net TVL, moving, past 650, hopefully moving towards more 700 sort of kind of levels. So that's from a pure staking perspective. So I think confidence in the protocol is high. People have sort of unstaked, gotten their H bar, realized the whole cycle is working well, and then sort of given us their vote of confidence back. The next steps is basically to make this product and token as useful as possible. So some big steps. We've been talking to Sauce ever since they were in development, and we've kind of been interacting off and on. So the main event this week is probably their HBAR HBAR pool going live on their platform. Right. Subsequently, the idea is to have more and more of these DeFi integrations as new platforms come up. On the other side of things, we are also kind of thinking of, more use cases for the token to directly be exchanged with other tokens, right? So essentially using HBAR as a currency, which sort of accumulates over time if you do nothing with it, but also can be useful in buying NFTs and other tokens. And those are the kind of things which we're sort of having early discussions with folks on.
Yeah, so Saucer Swap is going to be launching this Saturday, the 23rd, which is really exciting. I've already heard people talking a lot about putting stuff in the liquidity pool and being excited about the HBAR to Sauce, being excited by HBAR to HBAR, obviously. Tell me more about this kind of three-pronged collaboration between you, Saucer Swap, and Headstarter.
Yeah, so the DeFi Alliance is a little bit sort of more long term, and I'll park it a little bit separately from the pools because they're a different conversation, right? So I think where the DeFi Alliance conversation really started was, hey, so we've been through this journey, some a little faster, some a little slower, over the last few months on sort of building the real basic building blocks of DeFi on the network, right? And the idea was to kind of collectively bring together our experiences, both on the tech side, on the community building side, and what we've done on the user experience side, to kind of say, hey, how can we help other folks who might be looking at this journey from outside sort of go through this faster and sort of help the ecosystem go forward, right? So one of the things that we take very seriously as one of our sort of, responsibilities as being the first sort of liquid staking protocol is to kind of help the ecosystem grow, right? And so we've launched some small initiatives for creators along that front, a small one for our own community, which is more like a test thing that other folks can sort of also pick up. But this one is a little bit bigger and more collaborative in that sense. The idea is to kind of develop standards, and there were, it might not look at it from the outside, but there were sort of key points where we got stuck, and there was some solutioning done, and we had help from THF or other protocols, and we just want to make sure that there is a central repository or a central place when people who are building can sort of reach out to if they feel that there is some place where they're stuck and they want to move ahead faster, right? The other aspect of this is there are certain common things that every protocol that is going to build will need, right? So for example, wallet integrations, right? And how do you test? What's the best practice for going into beta and then launching, right? So all of those kind of things is, I think, what we have learned over this whole V1, V2 journey, and similarly with Sauce and similarly with Headstarter. So the idea is to kind of help the newer folks and give them a platform to sort of collectively reach out to our user bases as well.
I mean, this is the perfect time to be doing it because, we're so early and you guys are kind of like the big central focus as far as DeFi right now on Hedera. So, anything that can kind of help take away that barrier of entry for new developers, new people is that's really important.
Yeah. And actually, look, so DeFi is very, very unique in that case, right? So when more protocols come along, so for example, if a lending protocol now comes along, Sauce is more valuable, we are more valuable because the token has more use cases. Now, with a combination of pools and lending protocols, you can make multiple trading strategies. So DeFi is very different in the use case because as more and more sort of protocols and building blocks come along, you can have sort of exponentially grow the ecosystem versus say a regular use case like an NFT or something, which probably grows more linearly with time. So that's why I think it's even more important on the DeFi side to kind of do this and make sure that we do everything we can to help folks that are building launch and ramp up quickly.
On your end, have you seen a little more activity with regards to new developers coming in or people reaching out or taking advantage of this?
Yeah, so I think it's too early for people to kind of take advantage of this. I think we announced our intentions and sort of what we want to do in the future. And we're sort of behind the scenes constantly sort of having discussions and what to prioritize. So I think you'll see a few very, very concrete things coming out in the few weeks that people can start to take advantage of. And then I would expect people to sort of take advantage of one or two of those things and then tell us what they need more, right? So I think that that's the next step in the DeFi Alliance part of things, where we need to provide them something concrete that they can sort of look at and come and talk to us for. In general, right, definitely, I think more sort of engagement from folks, especially with some of our Indian roots who want to build, who are sort of, learning about the network and are sort of at least interested in the network. So on that front, definitely see a little bit more interaction, but a lot of those discussions are very, very preliminary, and it's people who don't even have a team and just kind of are reaching out founder to founder and having some discussions on, hey, how your experience has been and stuff like that.
Something that I think people might need your help being walked through is, why is HBAR-X's interaction with a liquidity pool and Sausage Swap as a desk, why is that so important?
Yeah, sure. So I think there are a couple of things, right? So if you look at HBAR-X, it's kind of like an asset in itself, right? It's an asset which grows in value with respect to HBAR over time, right? So now, while you have an asset, what can you do with that? Right? It can obviously just sit there and grow in value, but the idea always is to kind of utilize that in other ways, in other sort of financial instruments to kind of help the ecosystem grow, right? So one of the key things there is to kind of provide liquidity on a DEX, right? So if you want to hold your position, you can increase your yields by providing liquidity on a DEX, right? And take advantage of that. Right. And the other side is that helps people who are, say, trying to get into a position or get out of a position without the 7-day holding period. Right. So if today, for whatever reason, you want to sell your HBAR-X immediately, right? So you will now have the option to do that using a pool. Right. You can swap it for HBAR. Consequently, if you want to add HBAR, sort of get into HBAR-X, or maybe the pool is mismatched with the exchange rate that we have, and you want to take an opportunity of the arbitrage, then you can do that by taking an opposite position of where the pool has been mispriced, right? So this currently opens up the whole sort of hedging versus speculating kind of angle again that you see in traditional finance, right? Which in turn will increase the number of transactions, which hopefully will attract more kind of use cases and protocols to come and build, which sort of builds on top, and the virtuous circle starts, right? So that's why it's extremely important sort of milestone to kind of start this virtuous circle and hopefully sort of carry it forward with more and more use cases, right? It also gives us the opportunity to increase the utility of HBAR-X quite a lot, right? Because right now the sort of end goal is, hey, why would you hold HBAR? Why would you hold HBAR-X? Because you can use it everywhere and it has a yield component to it, right? So it's, while HBAR-X, HBAR is a start and it's a low impermanent loss pool, so that the risk is lower. The two assets are very tightly tied. We can discuss more about that. But going forward, once the thing matures, we can have HBAR-X stable coin pools, right? HBAR-X pools with other protocol tokens, right? So all of those kind of things come on board, which increase the utility of the token as a currency itself. So that's why it's a very important step for the ecosystem as a whole.
Well, yeah, let's get into what you brought up, that the two currencies are very closely tied.
Yeah. So see, a little bit of background, right? So of course, with every sort of DeFi opportunity, there are associated risks, right? And when you put your tokens in another protocol, like Stader sources another protocol, you take certain risks associated with that counterparty, that particular smart contract, right? And things associated with security, etc., of that smart contract and how that is architected, right? So we always encourage folks to do their own research and sort of get to know these things before they make their own decision. But those are the standard risks when you go to every protocol, right? But for DEXs, there are certain additional risks that come up in the way that the pricing is done, right? So one of those risks, as a misnomer, is called impermanent loss. But essentially, because when you provide liquidity, it's going to be a ratioed pool of HBAR-X, HBAR. So you have exposure to both HBAR-X and HBAR, right? So once the price moves in either direction, you are going to be mispriced from the original spot, right? And people can read about it, and there's mathematical formulas that calculate it. Even you can sort of go and look at historical impermanent losses for different token pairs, and look at, so the wider the movement in the prices for the two token pairs, the more the probability of the impermanent loss, right? And that impermanent loss has to be mitigated by providing trading APR or sort of rewards on top of the trading APR by the DEX for providing liquidity. Now, when we talk about, and like I said, the greater the movement in the prices, the greater the impermanent loss on either side, right? It's a little bit skewed, but I'll leave the maths out of it. But conceptually, you can understand it like this, right? So now with HBAR-X and HBAR, because we are publishing an exchange rate, and basically HBAR-X is a Delta One product, if you look at it from a USDC perspective, right? As it's denominated in HBAR, it moves along with HBAR. It's just a ratio on top of HBAR and a yield on top of HBAR, right? So it moves very much along with HBAR, so it's very highly correlated. The prices change once every day, but by a small amount, and they're also publicly verifiable, right? So say if there is a lot of selling of HBAR-X on the pool, the particular opposite position, which would be profitable, is to, sorry, should I repeat that answer? Maybe here. So the profitable position on the other side is essentially to buy up that HBAR-X, give it, unstake it on Stader, and get the actual exchange rate. So basically, for the 7 days of liquidity, you can make a certain amount of money, which will be arbitraging the pool. So the two pools will be sort of moving very closely. And we've seen this play out on other ecosystem where people will sort of develop bots to do that, right? So you calculate a risk metric for 7 days, and you say that whenever the price goes down, execute these trades. And so the prices kind of move very in lockstep, right? So, and when that happens, the impermanent loss is obviously lower because the prices pretty much moving in lockstep. And hence, these pools are some of the safest pools, right? So if you look at two stable coins, that's probably the, if nothing is happening to the stable coins, you have to throw in that caveat these days.
Right,
but if the two stable coins are still stable, that's probably the safest pool, because the prices are not supposed to change. Right. But yeah, those are some of the risks that people should be aware of. And, Sauce, I think, has a great documentation on it. People should kind of go there to understand it and then go ahead and invest.
Yeah, and like you were saying though, like that risk can also become energy for the platform. That variance can be a good thing. A very good thing starting out is to attract people with, okay, there's risk, but I could also get a lot of reward. I think that's something a lot of people miss, is that it kind of sounds bad on paper.
Yeah, and it's natural, right? So we always look at our own position, right? So as liquidity providers, that's correct. But if you look at long term, right, it's actually increasing transaction activity on the network, right? So more transaction activity on the network attracts more protocols, has more fees, and has sort of stronger use cases, right? So overall, it helps. And I think from DEX has also realized that, right? So some of the APRs and the rewards that you'll see will more than compensate for these things, so that people don't feel too hard done by if there is a little bit of a permanent loss here or there.
Absolutely. So, we're well into V2, and just as a little check-in, what's kind of your next priority on the roadmap with Stader?
Yeah, so the next priority on the roadmap is going to be a visual overhaul. There's going to be a little bit of a UI change, probably a month and a half down the line, where we're going to sort of have a little bit more modern and minimalistic kind of layout. And that's more on the feedback that we have received, and also what we've seen on other networks go well. On the contract side of things, we're in touch with the folks who are building protocol staking. So that's the next sort of bump for the staking ecosystem, or a milestone for the staking ecosystem, where we're in discussion on how to sort of handle that transition, where we integrate with protocol staking, and how would sort of the rewards, etc., look like. So that's kind of the next step from a staking on a Hedera evolution point of view, right? And like I said right at the start, for us as HBARX, the idea is to kind of make HBARX as useful as possible going forward, and that means that you should be able to buy any token, any NFT with it, and that's going to be a long haul sort of process for us to kind of make sure that we integrate with as many folks as we can, and sort of spread in terms of distribution HBARX as far wide as we can in as many platforms as we can, right? Interestingly, some initial conversations on staking other tokens, other protocol tokens as well, which could be interesting down the line, right? It's a way for protocols to manage their tokenomics. So having built this system on Hedera, there's no reason why we can't offer a solution to sort of manage staking for other tokens on the network. So those are the kind of things we are sort of in initial discussions of, but probably a couple or 3 months even down the line. So those are the 4 or 5 things that will be next for us.
And I'm guessing you can't say who might be receiving that kind of product with staking, that you might be helping them out.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not just one, but the idea is that if we do build this, we will kind of build this for everyone. So whoever wants it can kind of come in and talk to us and talk about what level of integration they want, whether they want to run the support themselves, whether they want us to run the support. All of those things are considerations, because it's not just sort of you develop it and implement it. It's also, from what we've learned, right? It's a lot of effort and kind of thinking has to go behind what the user's experience will be, what kind of questions can users ask, and what kind of problems they can face, which we can sort of anticipate and make sure we can do. It takes a lot of folks at the background while I'm here yapping around every week or every 2 weeks. There is a big team that's working hard to make sure that any product issues, any sort of problems that our users face, we address. A lot of the times we can't address them successfully because it's either with the platform or there's an issue with their privacy or anything like that. But whatever we can address and is related to the contract, we solve and we continue to solve. So yeah, those kind of things I think are considerations if we offer this kind of product. Like, where do we draw the line? Where does the partnering protocol want us to draw the line? How much do they want to take? Whether they want a solution which is in their dApp or in our dApp. So those are the kind of things we'll be thinking through before we put it out there. But we hopefully we'll have one or two sample implementations, and then other folks can kind of take it forward if they want to.
With more sophisticated and secure bridging coming on Hedera, and you guys being a multi-chain platform, do you guys anticipate any collaboration between all of your tokens?
Yeah, so I think that's something that we have internally sort of conceptualized, where we offer people on one platform the ability to take exposure to or invest in tokens on another platform. Right. For us, having interoperability on Hedera is dually important, because ideally we would want to sort of port our token as well at some point in time to the ecosystem and sort of offer it to folks who have sort of used our product and stuff like that. But yeah, on that front, I think that's something that we would be very interested in. I think there are a couple of things that we have to do internally to kind of stabilize our solutions. So there are 4 solutions which are pretty stable now, 2 which are coming up, right? And possibly 2 or 3 more in the pipeline. So I would sort of look at this more as a Q1 project, where we sort of try and bring together some of these tokens into a unified place where interoperability is there, and folks can take, an exposure to one token while sitting in another network. Right, but that's something that we have discussed. The other thing which is linked to this that we would kind of want to see if can be explored is giving some of our friends who are on centralized exchanges a peek into DeFi and DeFi rewards, right? Just kind of converting more folks by giving them a taste of what DeFi can offer. And that's something that we've been talking to a few exchanges about, either in terms of integrating with us across our many chains or particular chains that they might be interested in. But yeah, those are some of the cross-chain or multi-chain initiatives. Let me not call it cross-chain, but multi-chain initiatives that we are kind of working on.
If we can do anything to force Coinbase to finally list HBAR, that's the dream. That's the dream. Nobody knows why it's taken so long.
Yeah, their listing team is black box to us even. Not sure how that works.
We need to rename it HBAR Shiba, and then they'd probably list it right away.
Yeah,
go to the top of the list.
You want to propose an HIP for that?
I might as well. Is there anything more specific you can tell me about this ongoing conversation about integrating Stader into the kind of the staking system when native staking goes live?
Yeah, sure. So I think the end state, as we have described it, is pretty clear to all of us, right? In the sense that ultimately what will happen is that the Stader rewards that are kind of funded by the foundation right now will be driven by nodes and nodes collecting transaction fee, and that sort of flowing through the protocol staking, and Stader being a liquid token on top of that protocol staking. And that will sort of flow through to users, right? So that's the end goal. Now, what's being developed in HIP 406 very specifically is a portion of the supply side where you will have the option to, particularly stake with a particular node, but the rewards will not be generated by transaction fee just yet. That's another initiative that will come later, right? So which means that the next step for us is when protocol staking goes live, we will integrate with their reward mechanism, right, and stake there, and essentially develop a couple of things on our end. One is going to be a sort of optimal balancing algorithm, because protocol staking has min and max, and it will create an optimization problem on how you look at validators and evaluate validators and optimally spread your stake. Right, so we're going to do that for our pool, right? So anybody who stakes with us gets advantage of that versus doing it themselves. And of course, the advantage of having a liquid token and participating in DeFi remains, right? And of course, the third advantage, which hopefully people would have kind of seen, is that you have access to our support and all of those things that we've built and have sort of engaged the community with, right? So those are the kind of things that will remain. But the idea is to integrate with protocol staking, and then whenever protocol staking integrates to the nodes and we have the whole cycle completed, then the whole staking infrastructure will be at an end state.
We kind of touched on this a little bit, but
yeah,
what are some upcoming products or concepts that you have in the pipeline that don't relate to staking?
Sure. I mean, in some way or form, everything relates to staking.
Right, of course.
Our staking protocol, right? So, but just taking a leap forward, right? So, there is obviously the immediate plans that I discussed about in terms of making the token as useful as possible and offering probably staking as a product to other protocols and those things, right? So, a couple of things that we could do in the long run is like do vaults, for instance, which essentially would mean automated trading strategies on top of HBARX that we host. And the way we've kind of conceptualized it in a couple of blogs, especially on the erstwhile Terra site, when we were kind of thinking about this to implement, but it can be done here and everywhere else, is that once the building blocks are there, you can have folks who are very adept at building trading strategies, having building those trading strategies and displaying them as vaults, and users just one click investing in them, right? So basically you have levels of risk, you understand what the vault does, and you say, okay, I will stake my HBAR with HBARX and put it to this vault, which is, for example, market neutral and looks at XYZ arbitrage opportunities, right? And that will have a historical yield and stuff like that. So that makes the journey much faster and easier. It also kind of gives folks who are very adept at making strategies a way to sort of showcase and earn yields for their what they've created, and those are things that we could potentially do in the future, which will be kind of staking related, but a little bit further away, right?
Right.
But yeah, there's no real thing that we'll do which will be like completely different from staking, but or completely different from DeFi. Let me say that, right? That we'll stay in our wheelhouse, more or less.
No merch, no Stader hats. Can we? Can we get no? Okay.
So the merch and Stader hats are, I don't know if somebody's let you in on the internal secret, but we've spent about 6 months designing this, and it comes up in all of our hands on what it should be. So it's a super democratic process, and whenever we ultimately have it, you'll see me wearing one of those on our next discussion, hopefully.
Nice exclusive there.
Yeah. A look at the inside.
All right, guys, we got to plan this hat out.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's a great stopping point. I'd like to thank you guys for being here again. I think it's really just a boon to the entire community. The infrastructure you're creating, and your willingness to keep building on that is really nice and is going to help a lot with the energy and momentum continuing with early DeFi. Now,
thanks. Yeah, sorry.
Thank
you for the kind words, and thank you for having us. And as always, to the folks who kind of thank you for tuning in. And like I always say, right, it's their energy and their feedback that kind of keeps us going. And long may that continue.
Hedera, best forever, best community. Now, if you enjoyed this podcast, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, following us on Twitter @Hedera HashCast, and supporting us via Patreon. As a patron, you get early access to the podcast, as well as admittance to a private Discord community where I announce guests in advance, solicit questions, and take feedback. Thank you for listening and for helping to build a consensus in the Hedera community. Thank you to our patrons: ABFT, FTW, Charlie Go, Pib Chibbler, and DJ.